moved over, did you feel out of your comfort zone?
Oh, massively. Absolutely. Yeah, I can't tell you how, and it's been like that for every job that I have. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, when you're asking me the question, how do you move from one part, you know, when in industry and security to another,
Yeah.
you have to expect to be out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And you have to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fundamental.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Talk About It Tuesdays. Today, I am speaking with Sarah Harvie. So, Sarah, I'm going to pass over to you.
So I'm Sarah Harvie, as you just said, and I'm the head of information security at Merlin Entertainments. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, we have lots of brands. So we're an entertainment company. We have Legolands, we have Madame Tussauds, we own all of the sea lice, and so we have about 130 attractions across the world.
Wow.
So it's a global world. Yes.
Wow. And
so,
how did you get into that position?
It was probably about 2002 or 2003, so a long time ago. I was working in the Southwest, and I got an opportunity in a company where I was working as a receptionist to set up their vetting department, because they worked with the Ministry of Defence, and they were going to build all of this lovely new accommodation for the soldiers. And as part of that, we would have lots of contractors going onto site doing all of the building works, and they had to go through a background check to be able to get through the gates. And so it was something new that they were setting up, and so I kind of volunteered at the time, and that's kind of where my journey started. What happened after that was the scope of what we were doing for the Ministry of Defence kind of started to increase, and we provided resources to do access control. So it was the people who issued visitors passes at the access points to the garrison. So I took over the responsibility for managing access control across all of the garrisons in the Southwest that we were responsible for. And then started to look at physical security as well. So even though there were Ministry of Defence assets and they had people, who were in the army or civil servants in place, sort of looking after them, we were the custodians. We were the facilities management company that looked after them. And so we started to look at the risk around some of the assets that we were looking after on behalf of the Ministry of Defence. So physical security started to become part of that. And then data came into play, because there was a lot of, we didn't manage, secret data or anything like that, but there was a lot of restricted data. And so we needed to make sure that we were managing all of this information in the right way. So it gradually kind of built up as I went along, and I've been very, very lucky. And I suppose what I would say to anyone is grab every opportunity that you can. That was really good, and I really loved all of this stuff. I loved getting involved in the security. I loved doing all of the risk. There was a point where you kind of, once you've put all of your policies in place and your things are kind of starting to tick over, and you're just turning the handle and making sure that it's all working every day. Yeah, you just kind of think, oh, I want to do something different. But there was nothing that was really excited until the role for personnel security manager came up at the Olympic Games. And even though I was thinking, even though it sounded like I was going to go and do something similar to what I had already done. So it's personnel security manager. I thought that title sounds like me. I looked at the job description. There was a bit of vetting in there. But actually what it was looking at the insider threat risk to the Olympic Games. And that was something that I hadn't done yet. Now, lots of people at the time were talking about insider threat. And I was thinking, oh, wow, that sounds really exciting. And that means I can apply some of these things that I've learned, that all of this knowledge and skills that the Army has given me and the job that I was doing has given me. I was thinking, oh, I could apply that to the Olympic Games, because actually they do fit. Even though I didn't do insider threat over here, all the principles of what I learned apply. And so applied for the job and got it, and it was the most exciting thing, because I got to work with the police and counter-terrorism office, and Met Police and the Home Office, and CPNI when that was a thing at the time. I know they're called something else now. But I was working with all of these different government departments with security specialists, but they were looking at terrorism and all of these big massive threats that I hadn't really thought about when I was doing my little job over in the West Country. And so And so it gave me a huge experience around not only just doing that kind of insider threat risk assessment, because that was for 1 million people, and I don't think there's many companies that can offer that opportunity.
No.
But also kind of learning from all of these other people that I was working with, and I think
It must
moving
have
to an
been
organisation,
so fascinating.
yeah. And I think moving from an organisation where you are the subject matter expert to move into an organisation
Yeah,
where you are one of many subject matter experts
yeah.
is a really good thing to do if that's where you want if that's how you want to step up.
When you were looking at the job spec and you said that there was some aspects on it that you hadn't done before, and you thought, wow, that sounds interesting. At any point did you think, were you not going to apply for it because you thought I'm not qualified enough? Or did you
Yeah.
you did think that for a moment?
Yeah, yeah. For any job that I've applied for, you go through that thinking, oh my God, they're asking for that. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get a bit of anxiety or a bit worried about, oh, I don't know, it's a bit risky. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. And it's funny because you go through that process and I have some friends that I talk to, and one of them is really confident.
Yeah.
So if I have any doubts about what I'm doing, I give her a call, and I'm just like,
Oh,
Jane,
they're the best.
I'm thinking about this job. I'm not really sure that I can do this. And she's like, don't be so stupid. You know, you can do this. You're a really clever girl. Just because you haven't done that before, but think about that thing that you did the other time, and that's very similar. And and then you kind of get to the transferable skills
Yeah.
part of the conversation, which is another thing, because we all, if you're protecting physical assets, you're protecting cyber assets,
Yeah.
you're both doing the same thing, you're both applying the same principles, it's just your assets different.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to learn about. I started to become more aware of cyber, and in particular, because cyber was part of my risk assessment in the kind of the Olympic Games insider threat stuff. And that's something I found was that from an information security point of view, there's a difference between someone who's a generalist like me and someone who is really techie.
Yeah.
And I'm not that techie person, but it doesn't mean that you can't work in that industry. And so I ended up going to, and I know nothing about submarines, but I ended up going and being the information security manager for a submarine project, and you've got so much information around a submarine project, and some of it is really, really highly classified. And so, if I'm making a step into information security, this was, an uber step. But I remember when I went for the interview, one of the things they asked me and I had to prepare for before the interview was how was I going to tackle information security and cyber in their program. And I did a presentation on it, and all of the principles are the same. You go from physical security, and your focus is you identify your assets, you identify your threats, and then you identify your risks, and then everything else follows from there. It's exactly the same in information security. And so, but the asset that you're protecting is digital instead of something that's standing in front of you. But all of the principles are the same. So everything that I've learned along this way, everything I've learned from to all of the physical security assessments I did, everything I learned around insider threat and the stuff coming from the inside and what mitigation plans we had in place for the Olympics, and then it just all applied. You have to challenge yourself. You have to be, I knew nothing about submarines, hadn't really been involved in engineering before, but thought it was really exciting. Hadn't been responsible for protecting data before. So, I was going to say, I said to them, I'm new to this. However, these principles, and kind of sold myself in that way. And I got the job. So, and I turn up in this submarine program and I'm like, oh my God, so where do I start? Because I literally know nothing. You have to lean on your peers and other people who are SMEs in that area so that you can build up your own skills and knowledge. And I think that's really, really important. And that whole thing about, being afraid to ask questions. I do not, at Merlin, I've been there 2.5 years now, and I still ask questions, particularly around some of the technology bits. that's not a problem, because I am a value add. I am bringing something different to
Yeah,
this organization.
yeah,
And there is an advantage to actually not knowing much, because you see the issues with a different lens.
yeah, yeah,
And so,
yeah. It's true.
some of the, yeah, and so some of the answers you come up with to some of their problems
Yeah,
are things that they hadn't considered for. I've done different things since as well. So I went from um, being an information security manager on submarines, and one of the problems that I found that there was around the skill gap in security in BAE systems. And I started to develop this a competency-based model to get the right training, so that we could skill up some of
yeah.
the people that worked across all security. This was the physical security department, and for the information security
So you
department as
kind of
well. So that
sat in
the
between
work,
both of them.
yeah. So it was because they weren't at the time, they were everyone was doing their jobs, but there wasn't really any cohesion.
Right.
And this, you'd have the physical security people going, oh well, I don't really know much about that, because that's your area. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, no, because this is, everyone should have a basic fundamental knowledge. And that was really exciting, because I saw security from another lens this
Yeah,
time. I was
completely.
looking at how you build a really strong department. Like many organizations who move to Office 365, so we're in the cloud, and actually moving to the cloud introduces a series of, many more threats. And so phishing has become a bigger issue than it
Yeah.
used to be. And so, we're very hot on that at the moment. Then other things, like right now, we're going to get ready to start running our PCI assessment for the year. So you have external auditors coming in.
Yeah.
So I just need to make sure that all of my policies are in place and they've
Yeah.
been reviewed, and I've done all of the things necessary to comply with those.
Yeah.
I look at mobile apps, just
Oh, wow.
applications we have on the network. Yeah, so it's really, really varied. And I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in mobile apps at all, but
Yeah.
there's just some fundamental principles that I need to be aware of,
Yeah.
so that I can give the right guidance when they're when they're going to launch something.
So interesting. So you went. So your title now is head of information security. So you went from like sort of concierge receptionist to head of. I mean, that's amazing. And I think one of the things when I was thinking about talking to you, and a lot of people I think that have this idea that they IT security is so far, cyber IT. I feel like as soon as someone hears IT or information, they automatically think tech, like as in, numbers, you have coding.
Yeah,
I feel like that's why and then they think of courses, money, university, there's no sort of, there's, there's no known route into it, not a well-known route. And did you sort of do training on the job? You didn't sort of have to do a course to get a job or anything like that?
no, well, so it's funny. So when I was, one of the things that I learned when I was trying to move into information security from the Olympics,
Yeah.
is everyone, when they do their job descriptions, everyone's looking for a CISM or CISP,
For what?
and they don't mind which, a CISM or a CISP, and their qualifications
Okay,
in
yeah.
information security. And CISM is a bit more, it's like the generalist stuff, and it's, governance and oversight, and the CISP is much more technical, but you can have one of the other to do the job. And I didn't have any of this, and so actually when I was applying, my CV was getting rejected from some roles just immediately on the fact that I didn't have that criteria.
Yeah.
So on my CV, I put CISM expected and then put a date in. And I actually funded my own training to do a CISM, just so that I could have that under my belt. But I put it on my CV as expected. So when a lot of companies, especially the bigger ones, do automated filtering, and so if they don't have, if the computer doesn't see
Word.
CISM, the CV goes and out of the process.
That
So
is,
because I had CISM expected,
yeah.
it got through the automated filtering, but also showed I had an intention to do something. That's the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
important
yeah.
part of that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the only real training I did that was specifically related to information security.
I really wanted to, and you've done it perfectly. understand that sort of organic journey of how you did move from one to the other, and you've given some really good tips, you know, very obvious, but until someone says it, you know, you're always going to be out of your comfort zone. There's not always going to be everything on that job spec that you can do, but and like you said, it's about research. You know, if you don't know a particular area, do the research, you know, behind it as much as you can, so you're going into an interview as prepared as you can. I suppose understanding what you don't know, but then at least if you understand what you don't know, you know what transferable skills you have that can relate to that. So I suppose it does take someone proactive to do that transition. You're not just going to be able to interview.
No.
I haven't done this before, but I want to do it.
The thing that I would say is if you ever feel like you've really achieved something and you feel really proud of it, you've usually worked really hard to get to feel like that. It's never, if it comes easy, then it's not a challenge.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. That was brilliant and so super helpful.
No problem.